Hey guys, it's Jen here from Nails by Jen. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a quick and simple one. I am just going to tackle my nails. I finally am going to get to this hand. I did this hand actually early this morning. You guys know I am a simple, neutral, sparkle girl. That's all I ever do on my nails. So I actually filmed a video last night mixing all of my iridescent flakes together, and I loved how they turned out. So that's what is on these. I have added some of those iridescent flaky bits, and I love how they turned out. They're very neutral. They will grow out nicely because, let's be real, it'll probably be another 5 weeks or 6 weeks or however long before I fill these ones. So if this is something you're interested in, stick around, keep watching. As always, don't forget to click that like and subscribe for me. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and let's get started. So I'm going to start off by making one of my little custom mixes here because I don't think I'm going to have enough. I used this one this morning on here, but I don't think there's going to be enough in there. So I'm going to need some clear acrylic. You guys have seen me make this one before, but I will put it in this video as well. I really don't measure. I just kind of wing it. So I'm hoping that I can make this one to be the same as this one. So I'm going to grab some clear acrylic. So this is actually the core pink, the extra pink. So I'm using that. So I'm just going to put in 3 scoops of that. Now I do want this to have quite a transparency. It's a little hard to see because of the iridescent on this, the flakes, but there is some sheerness to it. And then just to add a little bit of pinkness, extra pinkness, I'm going to add a little bit of this one. This is just a custom one that I've made using pink pigments and some shimmer. So we've got that. And I've got a little bit of this one here. This is the infamous white glitter that I used to get from Art Glitter. So I'm going to add just a little bit of that, not too much. I don't want this to be super opaque sparkle. So you guys have seen me, I'll show you guys this one if you haven't watched my other video, but it is a beautiful white sparkle. There is one from, I think it's Magpie Beauty, that has one called Angel, and it looks very similar, but one of the girls who follows me actually sent me a video of it on my Instagram. She put it on her nails, and it does look like it has a bit more iridescent than this one does that I'm using, but I think it will be okay to use as a substitute once I get rid of that one, or run out of that one I should say. It is my absolute favorite one. So I'm just going to mix this up, and we'll do a little tester just to see how it looks. I might actually need to put just a little bit of like a cover peach. So I've just got this other one from a different company that I'm going to put just a little tiny bit in there and see if that makes a difference. Give it a little stir. I know everyone always comments when I make this that Young Nails, I think it's called Blush, is very similar to this, but I have been custom making this type of a color for so long that I'm just so used to doing it. And next time I'm at the supplier and if I see the blush, if I think about it, I will buy it just to try it, because I've heard it's very comparable to what I make here. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I might add just a little bit more of this one here. This one is from Born Pretty. It is supposed to be like a chrome, but as you can see, if you look, the texture of it is definitely not as fine as a chrome. You still can use it as a chrome. You just have to kind of burnish it in really hard, and it does end up having a little bit of texture. So I think that that'll be perfect amount. So that is good there. And then we're going to get into filing these off. So generally I just do a fill on my nail, so I will actually go underneath and take out any separating that has happened at the on the tip area of my natural nail, and also take out the arch. But I reformed these ones this morning and just started fresh, so I'm going to do the same thing with these ones. So I have mentioned in another video, or maybe a couple of other videos, I struggle with carpal tunnel pretty bad in my right hand. I also have it in my left hand, but my right hand is the one that seems to have the most struggle lately. So if you struggle with carpal tunnel, I find that when you have to hold smaller items, it hurts more. So what I do is I wrap vet tape around the handle of my e-file. That way it's a larger handle to hold, and it adds some grip to it. It's not as slippery as just the metal is. So it definitely helps to do something like that to help out with your carpal tunnel. And then getting into the carbide bit, you guys know I have mentioned this before. My absolute favorite carbide bits are the 4X ones. I still have yet to find anything. I used this one this morning when I did my other hand. This is just, it says 4XG, no, 4X coarse C, sorry. So I purchase these ones usually when I'm traveling and I hit up suppliers. I always tend to grab these because they're usually cheaper there. So I have quite a few of them, and hopefully I don't run out of them before I can travel again. So I have tried tons of different e-files, and I find, or excuse me, carbide bits, and I find that nothing cuts through the acrylic like these do. Now, of course, you do have to be careful because it is a sharp edge. If I could find one that has the cone shape, or I have one actually from Kiara Sky. I'll just pull it out here really quickly, and I do like the shape of this one, and I believe this is the coarse one. I think this is called the 3-in-1, but it doesn't quite cut through as good as this. So it's not bad. I have used it. I do like the shape of it, but even it is also a little bit sharp on the edge. And then you have other ones that are more football shaped, like this one. Again, I do like these as well, but they just don't cut through like this baby. So this is the one I'm going to use. So I'm going to use my nippers. I'm going to clip off the tips just so that I don't have as much filing to do, and then I'm going to take all the product down to a thin layer, and obviously remove any lifting that I have also. So one thing I want to mention, when you are using your nippers to clip the excess off of the edge, you want to make sure that you don't clip too low. I did a little TikTok video when I was doing these ones, and you will notice that I cut them way too low because I was using my left hand. Honestly, it's just, I am the worst with my left hand. I am not even an iota of ambidextrous. So you just have to be careful. Like, do not cut into your hyponychium because, well, it will hurt first of all, and as we know, we do not want to be cutting into that or breaking that. So now I'm going to get into just taking all of this product off. As you guys can see, I have my vacuum hose here. I've talked before in other videos. I have a shop vac. That's what I use. It is loud, but it works the absolute best for me. I've used it for years. I do want to get a Nova Flare eventually, but they are quite costly, and right now it's just not on the budget for me. So eventually I will get one of those, but for now, using my good old trusty shop vac. My 180 grit file. This is just an old one that I use on myself. It's getting pretty used up, but I use that to just go in and roughen up and smoothen out any lifted areas, and just to take that shine off of the natural nail. So when I am working on clients, I use my 100 grit files from On Vogue. So when they come back for a fill, this file has already been used, so then it's a lot duller, so it's okay to use on the client's nail. But I just have this one that I always just use for myself when I'm prepping the nail, and then this is the one that I'll use when I'm actually filing and shaping the nail. So I've gone around and I've also rounded off the tips of my nails, and as you can see, I do leave a little bit of the free edge there. I do leave a little area for the form to sit under. And something important also to do is to make sure you go underneath and just lightly file, just to make sure that there is nothing underneath that's going to prevent the file from sitting as close to the natural nail as possible. So I've done that on all of my nails, and then next I'm going to go in with my little cuticle bit, and I'm going to just get rid of all of the cuticle, and if I have anything hanging off or flapping around, I will cut it with my nippers. So the cuticle bit that I'm going to use today is this one here. I do not remember what it's called, but I did get it at the Pink Chair in Saskatoon. I think it was a 3-pack actually. So I use this one, and then I also really like these other ones that I get off of eBay. So this one here, it's a very, very fine tip. I like both of them. I find I really like this one if someone has very thick cuticle or extremely keratinized proximal nail fold. So I mentioned on my Instagram story that I have always referred to this area here that I'm pushing back, this skin, as the eponychium. We've now learned that that is not what it's called. So the eponychium still does exist, but this is actually called the proximal nail fold. And the keratinized proximal nail fold is the tissue that has calloused or has keratinized, so it's a little bit harder of tissue. In a lot of videos you'll see people cutting that off. I will cut things that are kind of hanging off, but I do like this bit here. If someone has extremely keratinized and extremely calloused proximal nail fold, I will use this to kind of smoothen it out just slightly. I don't cut anything really off. I just will use it to smoothen it out. So I'm just going to use this one on myself today, but this little guy here is also very good. It's really small and it's very nice to get in there and get all of that cuticle off. So now, depending on the speed of your e-file, mine is the Promosa and it runs at 30,000 RPMs. I put it at halfway, and that's what I run the cuticle bit at. So I'm going to go in and get rid of all of this cuticle. So I know it's a little bit harder working on my own nails to show you the correct angle, because unfortunately when I'm trying to get my hand in front of me, my boobs and my body get in the way. So when you are using a e-file bit like this, a cuticle bit, you want to make sure that you are not holding it at a very straight up angle. I'm exaggerating this, of course. Now you could see there was moments where I was kind of holding it at that angle, but that was actually to get rid of some of this keratinized skin that was here. So if you hold the cuticle bit very flat like this, as you can see, it's not getting into that little area right there. That's where we want to get that cuticle off. Because we've used the hand file to file the rest of the nail, there should be no cuticle left on the rest of the nail. but oftentimes the hand file cannot get close enough and get all of that cuticle off, so these bits work really great for that. So you just want to make sure that you angle it with the same shape of the nail. So you want to angle it just like this. You don't want to be doing like this and digging in, because you'll end up getting big grooves and holes in the nail. You don't want that, and you just want to use a light touch. Now, going around the skin here, as you can see, I was flipping my hand around to try to just smoothen out this skin here, because I do have some keratinized proximal nail fold, because over the years I have just developed that callus. So that should be good. So one thing that I learned watching a video with, I forget what her name is, from the Fingernail Fixer, and also Doug Schoon, and then there was a couple of other people also in the video. I do not know their names, but I will try to post the link to the video below. And that's where they went over all of the wording of the anatomy of the nail, so that we all are on the same page and we know what we're supposed to be calling each little piece of the nail. So they also discussed in there the keratinized proximal nail fold, and how, you know, if we keep cutting this, it's going to just continue to callus. The more you cut it, the more it calluses. The more you cut it, the more it calluses. So then it's just kind of a vicious cycle, and you will end up just constantly having a callus there. So what they recommended is, I believe they said to give it a couple of months and just cuticle oil it and lotion it and try to keep it soft, and that eventually that tissue will soften up and the callus can go away. And I will honestly say that on a side note, when I'm sitting doing my nails, doing clients' nails at my nail desk, I have a tendency to curl my toes under. And so I actually started developing, I thought they were like corns or something, but I actually started developing these calluses, these red hard tissued bumps on my big toe, and then also on my second toe. So I have been very, very cautious to catch myself tucking my toes under and untuck them. And I will say that those calluses are actually dissipating. They are slowly going away. I also make sure I lotion my feet every day and all that kind of good stuff as well. So I have to say that I feel like their theory does work, because for those, it is working for me. Now, maybe if you have a callus that has been there for 20 years, that callus may not go away. I'm not sure, but I would say to give it a try, because we do not want to have calloused skin. It is not pretty, that's for sure. All right. So now I'm going to get into putting on the forms and getting ready for my application. So as you can see, I have my prep solution actually in a little dappen dish. You can actually just use it on your wipes as well, how you normally do, but I actually really like to use, this is an old Smile Line brush. As you can see from pushing it and using it as a scrubby brush, it has gotten all kind of torn up and the bristles are bent back, but it works perfectly fine. So I usually go in, I dip it, I kind of take a little bit of that excess off, and then I really get in and scrub. And I find that this just really helps to get that debris, that fine nail dust out of that cuticle area and out from under the proximal nail fold, just so that we can try to do everything possible to prevent any type of lifting. So there we go, those are nice and clean, and now I'm going to get my forms on. So I've got these forms here from the Pink Chair, and they are from the 2M Beauty Company. I quite like these forms. I don't have any issues with them. They stick quite well. I like the thickness of them. They bend and form really nicely. So when I use them, I actually remove the little tab out from here, and I don't use it. Some people like to put it under here. I have done that in the past with other forms, but these ones I just find I don't really need to do that. And then there is a perforation here, so you could tear it or cut it. I usually choose to cut it. Now, something to mention also, if your scissors are not cutting very well, your little stork scissors, it could be just because they are kind of coated with sticky residue from cutting your forms. So just give them a little wipe with some acetone and it'll clean them right up. So I'm going to start with the pinky nail. So I am going to cut out this little area here so that I can get under my pinky nail really well and not be hitting the hyponychium that is there. So I think that that should be okay. We're going to attempt to do that. I know that there's all different ways to use your scissors to measure and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I'm such a wing it kind of girl, so I usually just wing it and it works out. So when I'm doing my own nails, I do tend to pinch my forms, so I will just pinch them together. I will just pinch them together and connect them at that little area there. Now some forms don't have a little tab like that, so it makes it a little bit harder, but it's still doable. So that's how the form looks. I've got it like that. Now I'm just going to slide it under my nail. Now if you notice, my pinky nail, my pinky finger curves in this way. My pointer finger actually twists this way and it curves this way. My pointer finger is pretty messed up. Most people's pointer fingers are messed up for some reason. Mine go in the opposite direction. So if I put that form on with the shape and the curvature of the natural nail, you can see it's pretty crooked. It's going a lot more in this way. So because I'm forming them, and generally I'm not really overly picky for myself when it comes to that, like my natural nail grows the way that it grows and I just kind of work with that. But because I'm forming them, I am going to show you. So what I'm going to do is basically angle the form kind of in the opposite direction a little bit. So there you can see that it looks straighter. So I think that that looks good. It's sitting pretty good under the nail. So I'm now going to just check here. I want this to not be, I don't want it to be tilted like upwards or anything like that. I want it to have a little bit of an angle downwards. And I'm just going to now close the rest of the tabs. And instantly you will feel that it starts to get more secure onto your finger. So then, because I'm doing an almond, I am going to pinch the form. And we're going to pinch it a little bit like that. And I just want to make sure that it's still, you know, relatively straight. It is going a little bit at an angle, but it's not going to be the end of the world. For me, it's not going to be the end of the world. For a client, it might be, so you may want to adjust a little bit more. So just going to, sorry, I'm just out of frame here. I'm just going to play with that a little bit. And then you can bend these tabs over. They will generally pop anyways, but now that is a very secure form. It's on there very, very well. I'm not worried about it popping off or anything like that. So there we go. 1 down, 4 to go. Now, when you get down to doing your pointer finger and your thumb, if you put your form on your pointer finger and you go to try to cut the form for the thumb, you're going to have a little bit of struggles because you need your pointer finger to be able to hold the forms. So I cut both of them before I actually place them. So I just kind of test it out to make sure, you know, that I've got a good cut there. And then I'll put that one aside for a second, and then I'll cut my thumb. And then I will place them on just so that I can use both my pointer and my thumb to hold the form before I cut them. So now, as you can see, my pointer, it's even hard for me to show you guys because I legit have to twist my hand very much for that finger to sit flat because it's so twisted and crooked. But if you look, the angle of this fingernail is kind of going out this way. So if I was to put the form on according to that fingernail, it would go that way. So now I can make it go straight up because I am forming them. It's not always easy from your angle with clients, and we always have clients who will say, my fingernail is crooked, my fingernail is crooked, or it looks crooked, and it's because we're trying to look at it from a different angle. We're also trying to go with the natural curvature of the nail. So, you know, sometimes it can be a little frustrating, but you just have to do your best. Tell your clients, you know, just be patient, and you know, they'll tell you which way. Like oftentimes I'll tell my client to look at it and tell me which way does it need to go, you know, because from my angle, and maybe it looks straight, but from theirs it doesn't. So now the problem with this nail, because it twists so much, that when I do alter that, you will see that I have a fairly large gap. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a fairly large gap on this side with the form, and that's because I'm not going with the natural curvature of the nail. So I will end up having quite a bit of product under there, but that's just kind of what happens when you try to alter the shape of the nail. And the last one here, we'll get this thumb on. Oh, I need to pinch this. I should have done that already. And also, if you're having a hard time getting the form on, I find if you kind of pop it a little bit to flatten it out, and then bend these little tabs back, and also kind of push on the form to sort of flatten it out, you'll be able to get it under that nail a little bit easier, if that makes sense. And then you can go back in and kind of pinch it down to where it needs to go. That is that. So now I'm going to go in with my primer, because I'm using the Young Nails system here. I do have their primer. It's called Protein Bond, and I'm going to apply 2 coats of that to each nail. And you do want to avoid getting it on the skin, so just be cautious with that. I will say that I'm not a fan of this little bowl. I'm not a fan of the brush in this jar. I much prefer a longer handled brush with a shorter bristle. This one I do find a little harder to maneuver around, but you know, it is what it is. This is what they have, and I think this has been what they've had forever. Now I'm going in with my second coat. But I would like to know in the comment section, does anybody else struggle with using this little brush that they have in their Protein Bond? Am I the only one that finds it to be an issue? Because I've never seen anyone else say anything about it, but yeah, I've used other primers that are just in like regular bottles with regular brushes, and I find them way easier to use. So I'm going to seal that up because that's like gold. We don't want to spill that. And then I've got their monomer. So I've got that here. And then I've just got my little custom mix here. So the other thing that I didn't show you earlier was the custom mix of the flakes that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to be putting them into the dispersion layer of the top coat or into the top coat, but you could embed these also into the acrylic. So I'll link that video below so you guys can see how I did that. So now we can get to forming these nails. So now generally I would tell you guys to put a thin clear layer down before you put any color, just so that when you go to remove and do a rebalance or an infill, whatever you guys choose to call it, that you don't have to go into the natural nail. But I usually will leave just this as the thin layer anyways, because I always do this same color. So I'm going to go just straight in with the color. So I'm going to get a good sized bead. As you can see, that beautiful sparkle and shimmer is in there. And I'm going to lay that down and just kind of dip in with my brush to re-wet it. And I'm going to start patting it around that cuticle area. So essentially I'm building the entire structure and everything out of this color. Now, again, it's a little cold in my room right now, so things will move a little slower. It will harden slower, but that's okay. So you see how it's like sliding into the cuticle here? You want to be careful and just to catch that, to make sure that it doesn't just blob up in there. It's also sliding here into the side, not into the cuticle, because the cuticle is what we remove. And then basically I just kind of start building it out a little bit and forming and shaping that nail. Now my thumbnails naturally are quite flat, so again, there's going to be quite a bit of product that kind of slides underneath the nail there because I'm trying to create more curvature and give it more of a C curve. And I will pinch these as well as they start to cure and harden. And I do mine fairly short. I used to have long nails, but I really find them a lot harder to work with clients when I'm doing their nails. So I really just prefer this length. I love this length and shape that I've been doing on my nails. It's like a soft almond, and I would consider this like a medium length. Definitely not long, that's for sure. So now as it's starting to cure, you can kind of play with it a little bit more, turn it on different angles. And if you do a lot of shaping at this point, you won't have as much filing to do. So if you can take your time and get in some good shape right in the beginning off the bat, you won't have quite as much to do when you're filing. All right, so now I'm going to just build a little bit thicker into the apex area here and just kind of pull it down. Just so I have that good amount of strength. I do keep it fairly thin at the cuticle area because I don't like to have a big bulge of acrylic when it grows out. So that's that one. So I'm just going to start letting that harden, and I'm going to attempt to build these ones, and it's just a little harder for me to hold my hand this way. So I am going to attempt to try to do it this way. I need to seriously learn my lesson from this. And next time I need to make sure that I have my heat up. This morning it actually did not take me half as long to do these ones, but my fingers are very, very cold right now. It's not even that cold. It doesn't feel overly cold in the room, but my fingers are really, really cold. And I even have my little foot warmer on. All right, so now I'm just going to go in and file these guys. Alright, so now I'm going to go in with my top coat and my flakes. So I am going to put a layer of top coat. I'm almost out of this one, so I'm going to have to get a new jar soon here. So I'm just doing a thin layer, And then I'm going to cure it. And then I'm going to put the flakes into the tacky layer. Now you could essentially put them into the wet layer as well, but I find it's easier to apply them just into the tacky layer. Now I always do, with my clients, I always do the thumbs separate just to make sure that it's going to get really good and cured. But to be completely honest, I want to get these done. So I'm just going to put my whole hand in right now with this first layer. 60-second cure. So what I did once they came out of the light and that tacky layer was there, I just kind of tapped my brush onto that tacky layer to make the brush a little bit sticky, and then I just went in with my flakes and just tapped them in all over. I don't want to cover the entire nail with flake, but then you want to make sure, I just want to have a few. So then you want to make sure that everything is really pressed down and nothing is sticking out or poking out or sharp. So I just kind of go over with my brush and give them a little dust and then like check them out from the side. And then you're going to add your final layer of top coat. Now with clients, I would always do 2 layers of top coat, but because I am very much over doing these nails right now, they took way too long to apply. I definitely need to remember for next time to make sure that my heat is just turned all the way up so that it's not so cold in here. I must have not turned it high enough this morning or something.
Alright guys, thanks for hanging out with me while I did my nails. Oh my gosh, I was so frustrated because they just took so long for them to cure. I need to remember this for next time, to crank up the heat so my fingers are not freezing cold. So I really liked how they turned out. They're very, very soft and pretty. As usual, this is my go-to. I would love to know in the comment section below, when you do your nails, do you like them to be wild and crazy, or are you more of a neutral girl like me? So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it with someone else. Leave any questions or comments you have in the comment section below. And as always, guys, have an amazing day.